Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about the film Island in the Sky from 1953, and this is continuing my quest to review as much of William Wellman's filmography as I possibly can. Island in the Sky is based on a true life story which was written into a book by Ernest K. Gann. A DC-3, or the military version, which was called a C-47, is forced to land because of the icy conditions and is lost in a region that wasn't mapped or very well known, so they are trying to survive while planes are trying to find them, and John Wayne is the leader of this plane, of course, because he's John Wayne, but not the typical John Wayne we're used to. He's more of an earnest, less macho, sensitive guy, and his name is Dooley, and he's trying to survive and lead these men in the cold -70-degree weather as other pilots and planes are trying to find them in this unmapped region where they can't even really see much going on because it all kind of looks the same. This, of course, is about flyers, and that's something William Wellman was very good at from his first kind of big breakout film, Wings. So it was like really perfect for Wellman, and you can tell a flyer was behind this because it's kind of almost technical in a way, and there, of course, is great aerial cinematography, and this aerial cinematography by William Cothier, who also helped William Wellman shoot Wings. Not as immersive as Wings, but that's not really the point of it, and I don't think it would work with these kind of planes, but some very beautiful aerial cinematography. You can tell they didn't use models or anything. They really went in the sky and filmed it, and he did interesting things with lenses and underexposure to kind of give it kind of moodier feeling at night, and he really did a great job, and Archie Stout did kind of the more dramatic cinematography. But it's interesting because as I was watching this film, I felt like I was watching kind of two different films playing out around the same time, where you see the film with John Wayne and those characters on the ground trying to survive, and it's a survival story with the rescue playing as very different, and even the score is very different. Maybe towards the end not as much, but as they're looking, like the music's like trumpeting them to keep going and like going like, yeah, we're gonna do this, we're gonna make it, we're gonna find Dooley, John Wayne's character, and we're gonna find these guys. And everything in the survival story is depressing and sad and moodier and grittier, much like William Wellman's style. And it looks like on the ground, the cinematography reminds me a lot of Battleground. He's not really doing the documentary style as much, or if it is, it's not as gritty as it used to be. You know, this isn't Story of G.I. Joe Wellman, this is Battleground Wellman. This also started a new collaboration and a new studio for William Wellman, which was with John Wayne. He would make several of his, almost all of his next films until his last two were with John Wayne's production company. It was this, The High and the Mighty, Track of the Cat, Blood Alley, and I think even Goodbye My Lady were all done with John Wayne's production company, which eventually was called Bat Jack, but at this time I think was called Fellows Wayne or Wayne Fellows. And Wayne and Wellman apparently worked very well, and they are, if you read anything about John Wayne, even though he was one of the biggest movie stars ever and had an incredibly lengthy career, he was a very modest guy, he was a very simple guy, and he was a very encouraging guy. I mean, you can say what you want about his political opinions and everything like that, but he really, if you worked with him, he was very nice to you, he was very encouraging, and him and Wellman got along really, really well and had a really good rapport, and actually were friends before this. This was kind of the film William Wellman was already developing when he was planning on leaving MGM, and I think it kind of worked out. He was with John Wayne, and I think they had a good rapport. John Wayne gives a different performance. You can see a difference between William Wellman's John Wayne and the other director's John Wayne's, you know, and that he's not this big macho guy. That wouldn't work in this movie, but it wouldn't really work with William Wellman. And I think that's why he goes for that different performance. As much as I think like all this had to work within this picture, and I do like this movie, I think it's very good. I was a little confused. At first I thought maybe they should have developed Dooley a little bit more before everybody talks about how great he is. It just seems like, well, he seems all right, but I don't know. It just wasn't proven to me as an audience, but I think that's like a nitpicky thing. When you're watching it, you're seeing how he's really becoming more of an older director. I was fine with that when you notice the difference between Story of G.I. Joe and Battleground. But when I come to this, clearly he's trying to tell the story of these pilots, and Wellman's very much in love with flight and flyers, and he wants to show flyers and what it's like and have a realistic portrayal, but also, you know, understand the dramatics of making a motion picture. It just doesn't feel as immediate and as outlawy as it used to. He's definitely grown up. There's no way you couldn't tell this was an older director. I knew that, but it screams it on screen. It's just there. Maybe I should get used to this isn't the Wellman from Warner Brothers. Although this was distributed by Warner Brothers, it was made by his production company, and I believe sold to Warner Brothers. The Wellman who was there in the pre-code era, you can't see him in this film. I know more people are obsessed with Wellman of the pre-code era, and I think he was probably a more fun director, edgier director than. The way he uses sentimentality in this film is more about these guys who are not sure if they're going to survive, thinking about their families and how much they love them and how they'll never see them again. I think he gets called out on how sentimental he is, maybe a little too much, but in this film, he always has a narrative reason to use sentimentality. It's never just there, or at least as far as I've seen. I noticed that in this film, like it definitely part of the narrative device. I like this movie, and I like how Wellman used a bunch of cool character actors. He used like the original Alfalfa, Harry Carey Jr., James Arnaz, Gordon Jones. I like the assemblance of actors. This is very much a guy picture. I think you could say this is more of the tough guy, grittier Wellman picture, because the three women who are in it are all there through either flashbacks or they're calling to see where their husbands are. I like John Wayne's performance because he's sensitive, he's relatable. He doesn't feel like it's inappropriate for him to play it or that he's playing it wrong. I thought he was very good as Dooley, and like how he really cared about these men. He could be emotional, it didn't look cheesy, like they really felt like earned moments. Wellman has narration going throughout it that he himself gives, which almost feels like Rod Sterling type narration. It's really kind of spooky, and it adds to the survival story the way he reads his narration. He actually helps a lot with the mood, and after I'd seen Buffalo Bill and especially Across the Wide Missouri, I really didn't think narration could work in a Wellman film. I think when he had more to do with the narration, he really loved a picture, he was going to find a way to get that narration to work, and there was a real reason for it to be there. Otherwise, I think it would maybe have been a little too moody. He definitely likes to play for the audience. When I was reading in his book, before I reviewed this, I noticed he considers commercial success to be the real success of a motion picture, and it really matters to him if a film's a hit and if it plays well for the audience. Anytime this film would get into the moodier, artier elements, or having a narration does feel a little stranger. Even though he's like a guy's guy, he's a simple, grittier director in a certain regard, I think he did have an experimental edge to him, which he did more in his early years, but the narration was kind of a little odder and stranger, but he gets it to work so well it doesn't peek out at you like that, and it works really well with the film, and I think it really punctuates a lot of things in a very interesting way. He directed the hell out of it, and it's interesting to have like two kind of different pictures almost working in the same way, but it seems to really work because obviously the survival story and the rescue story are going to feel very different, and I think he did that incredibly well. Wellman could work really well as an older director, and he got a huge hit out of it, and he continued working with Wayne, and while watching this film I could really see why, because they seem to work very well together. And I think this film shows the kind of Wellman protagonists and men working together trying to solve something, and Wellman was always really good at that. Sure, it doesn't have his usual two guys who come into something together, so it doesn't feel as in the Wellman canon, but it also does because you have all of the flight and men all working together, so it feels a little more battleground influence than Wings, despite all the aviation and the amazing aerial shots. But it's still a hell of a good picture. I think it's just, for me, it's just so different from the Wellman I think I originally got into, but I think it's still a really solid movie, and definitely a solid and different kind of John Wayne movie. So if you have seen Island in the Sky and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments, and subscribe if you would like to. And my next film in my William Wellman series, as it draws to a close, will be Westward the Women. I don't think I'll be doing any more John Wayne Wellman films before I end it, although it's coming back, but I think the John Wayne Wellman, the other two, will be at the beginning of when I start doing just one Wellman a month. I hope to see you for the rest of these remaining Wellman as I try to finish this off before the end of January. I will see you next time, and thank you for watching.